Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is One Day Today. We are on episode 132. I'm very excited about our guest today. And before I introduce you to her, I just want to welcome you. Why we started this, I guess, 2 years ago now. It's in the midst of the pandemic. The world was the whole new experience of the world. We were all indoors, closed off from what our plans and everything we expected. And I was just talking to Pinky, our guest backstage, about how, when we were all in this place during the pandemic, everybody was kind of stuck indoors, and what's going to happen? What do I do now? And where am I going? And the way I see it is we were offered this golden opportunity to really focus on what's important. Really looking at, have those internal inquiries, asking ourselves, who am I? Why am I? Why bother? Like, what am I doing on this planet? And like, what am I actually doing? And what am I trying to do? And that's what this space is about. That's what this stage is about, is you sharing your gift, your unique gift, what you have to contribute to the world, to others. And what did you face, or what are you facing in your life? What obstacles have just and the most dark, scary, lonely periods of your life, the deepest, darkest valleys, what were you facing, and what did you find? What happened that you discovered that allowed you to climb out of that and to come out on the other side with this beautiful gift and beautiful purpose to share with others? I would assert, no matter who you are, where you're from, what you believe, what color you are, what size you are, what your politics are, your gender, you have something unique. You have something beautiful that can lift others up, that can empower others. You have something. Every moment you have a choice to plant seeds of love, of laughter, of wonder and beauty. And that's what this space is for, is for really for leaders to share what they've experienced and overcome, to be able to discover who they really are and what they have to share with us all. And today is no exception. I am very excited to introduce you. Welcome our guest today. Well, please welcome to the stage Pinky Ghadiali. Hi, Pinky.
Hi, Abram. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me on.
It is our pleasure. Well, if you're ready, Pinky, I was usually say this, but the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Imagine as a child, each time you met someone new and you were introduced as, hello, meet the shy one, meet the quiet one. And someone you love and respect has just labeled you. And I spent most of my childhood wearing this t shirt of quiet and shy. And I think that went through into my subconscious and it really didn't serve me very well. And I kind of wore this t shirt that said shy and quiet throughout my childhood. And I always felt like I was quite anxious. I never really fitted in. I didn't really belong. I felt like a little bit of a misfit, different, the girl with a strange name, brown skin, freckles. Yes, I have freckles on my face. And to make it worse, my mum always used to make me want to make my hair up in pigtails. And that didn't really help me at school either. My parents are from, my mum is from India, my dad is from Tanzania. And I was born in England. I now live in Edinburgh. And I've always felt like a bit of an imposter all of my life. And I even remember when I used to go to school on a Sunday evening, I used to feel that dread in the pit of my stomach. And instead of being present on a Sunday evening with my family and having a great time, I was panicking internally. I was feeling like I wasn't good enough. I felt that self doubt, that feeling of anxiety, the butterflies in my stomach, my heart was racing. I always used to have a lump in my throat, to the point where I worked myself up and actually feel sick, not actually physically, but just felt it inside. And when I went to university, that was the first time in my life where I felt like I was in a place that I belonged. And I felt much better. I felt great about Mondays. And since then, Mondays have been like my favorite day. And I'll tell you why that is in a moment. If we fast forward quickly, 10 years on from that moment at university, I was 31 years old. I just built a house. I'd bought a business and I just had a son. And by society standards, that's success, right? You've been married, you've got everything in place, and what looks like you've got everything in place. And 2 weeks after having my son, I started a process of divorce from a very abusive relationship, toxic, where there was control, absolute control on finances, and emotionally very draining and abusive. And with a 2-week-old son, I hit rock bottom. That was the point when I found out that my ex-husband was cheating. And to me, that was the point where, after the management of what I thought, the anxiety, and me wearing the label on my t-shirt came back. And it almost became like I'd reversed everything back to where I was. And I felt like I failed. I failed my career, my marriage. I had to sell that dream home that I built. Beautiful barn type house, farmhouse. And I had to make a choice to take a chance and to change my life, because I either had to stay in that victimhood mentality, or I needed to change my life to make it better, to live my full potential in a place that really mattered to me, which was my new purpose. My new purpose was my son. And at that point, I realized that this is a point where I needed to just step up and make things happen. And I think we really are all much more capable than what we think we are. And that's where, when I moved to Edinburgh, 330 miles north of my family, I didn't have any friends. I became a solo parent. And, this life was a struggle for me. And it was really hard bringing up my son, but at the same time, I wanted to start something to help other people. And when I was working, so I'm an optometrist by profession, I don't do it anymore. But going back at that point where my life completely flipped, and the universe literally slapped me in the face. I was sitting in my dark 3x3 room as an optometrist, and I called it my coffin. And I realized that I had this skill where I was able to proactively listen to my patients and offer them a space where they could open up. And often they would say to me, "I've never shared that with anyone before." And then they'd get emotional and start crying. And so even my receptionist once said to me, "You really are in the wrong profession." And so I went away and I was really excited. I really wanted to start coaching and doing something in that field of coaching. But at the time, I was married to a controlling ex-husband who didn't allow me to do what I wanted to do. So when I moved to Edinburgh, my first thought was, I'm going to follow my dream, my passion. I'm going to be a coach, and I am going to help more people every single day to overcome imposter syndrome, anxiety, self-doubt, those things that hold us back from being our best selves. And I want people to struggle less than me. I want people to stop holding themselves back, because you can. And you can change those labels on your t-shirt, because I did. And it's not about fixing you, it's about optimizing yourself and living a life of excellence. And so for me, I spent a lot of my life wearing t-shirts that told me I didn't fit in, I didn't belong, I'm not good enough. I had low self-esteem and anxiety. And I think in some ways, some of this was manifested because of the way that I felt. And I found that the imposter syndrome stayed with me when I was working too. Walking into a networking room, surrounded by people that don't look like you, who aren't like you, and you feel like an imposter. And that feeling just kept coming back. So I decided I need to do something to overcome this. And so I started training, personal development, professional development, neurolinguistic programming. That was literally the best investment I'd ever made. It changed my life, helped me, it inspired me, it challenged me. I kept doing better and getting better and getting what I wanted in my life. Everything I put out there, I was getting. I remember being a single parent, a solo parent, was, tricky doing what I did. I remember I went into a board and I was sat on the board, but I had to take my son with me. And I remember those days because I didn't have anyone else to take care of him. And honestly, I feel like I've come on so much. My turning point, I have to say, is when I got clear and focused and purposeful to stop wearing those labels on my t-shirt. Just that reprogramming, that reframing, and having a destination in mind, a goal that you can really feel and believe. And when you believe in yourself, you really can achieve anything you want. And so after having coached hundreds of women globally online through my business, Mindset by Pinky, 2.5 years ago, just before the pandemic, in February 2020, I decided to create a business called Net Women. And that business was about creating a community for women. That was the initial idea. But the pandemic happened and nobody knew what was going to happen at that point. So I had to change what I was doing with that and make it all online. But actually what happened was it was a springboard to our success, because we weren't just in Edinburgh. We then became bigger than that, much bigger than that, realizing that other people, not just people near me, but everybody struggles with imposter syndrome, that doubt, wearing the wrong t-shirts, wearing the wrong labels on their t-shirts. And, that for me was my point of, this is where I want to help more people. And then I realized, actually, in organizations, in corporates, they also have the same problem. They have a problem of not having enough women at the top, and having equity, women having that equity to get to equality is the problem, because underrepresented groups struggle to get noticed. They don't get visible, they don't promote themselves, they just keep their head down and work. And therefore, I thought, right, I need to start helping organizations improve their diversity and inclusion. And I think certainly for me, I want to just quickly share a story about a client who I helped, Lucy, who was continually stressed and anxious and burnt out at work, verging on exhaustion. And when a client of mine isn't happy, I feel it. And I spent a lot of time with her, and she kept self-deprecating, telling herself how everyone else around her was doing better than her. Who am I to own my own business? I'm going to get found out. I don't deserve it. I'm not good enough. She had this massive fear of failure. And that led to her low self confidence and low self esteem. And it impacted every area of her life. Meanwhile, she didn't get that you don't have to please anyone but yourself. Life is too short not to be your own fan. So when you internalize those messages that tell you that you are a fraud or you're not the real deal, then you suffer internally, mentally, physically, emotionally, and then you start playing smaller and you don't break the glass ceiling because you're taking on smaller opportunities. And when we worked together, we really got it. Her true uniqueness came out. She was no longer a stress, a mess. She was no longer anxious. She was this happy person who really was confident and believed in herself. She's now got a highly profitable business, courage to believe in herself, and is thriving. So if you're like Laura, then you are much more capable than you think. And I want to finish off that if you want to achieve more, but you aren't sure of the steps to take, then you need to value yourself, appreciate your strengths, and remember it's okay to fail. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pinky, for sharing your story. It's so inspiring, how you've, you know, all the things you went through in discovering that for yourself. And I just acknowledge you, the courage, it's taken you to to get out of that situation, to being in a toxic relationship, and to feel all those feelings in the background, which I my story resonates so much with what you're saying, not belonging, you know feeling like an imposter, and just kind of like almost hiding in a shell of like afraid to peek out, to be me. So I just acknowledge you for just having the courage to share you and the gift that you are, and transmuting and transcending the pain that you had, and giving that to others, that ability to come out of their shell, and to shine, and to be who they are, and to be fearless and courageous in the face of that. So first off, I acknowledge you for that. And there's so many things that come up what you were saying. I love your metaphor of how you're wearing a t-shirt, how that was, because I feel like we all have some version of that. We have some story we tell ourselves, like, for me it was, I don't belong, or people don't understand me, they aren't going to like me. And I think I had a few different t-shirts with that's what they said. But what do you, so I mean, you kind of shared this with how you help one of your clients, but I'm just curious, is like, what do you say to somebody right now who might be going through that experience where, maybe they know that they're a gift, and maybe they don't, or they don't know what they uniquely have to offer? But what do you say to someone who's facing that right now, who's completely wearing that t-shirt, and it's almost, but that t-shirt's almost wearing them, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, completely. I think some of the most incredible tools I've ever learned and ever got are things like reframing and resetting your mindset and rewiring. So, with neuro-linguistic programming, if you imagine that your brain is like a cassette player, oh my goodness, how old am I? Like you're recording certain stuff in your brain all the time. And as a child, that is the most absorbent time. So at that point, you've kind of set in stone that wiring in your brain. If you keep reinforcing that wiring, it just makes it stronger. So those words that you keep hearing on a daily basis, they just get stronger and stronger. And so it's going to take time to unravel that and then make new pathways which say more empowering things, more positive affirmations. And I think certainly for someone right now, if they're struggling, I would say try it, try NLP, try and find someone who does it, because I absolutely love it. And I think that if you choose to get up and keep fighting and do things differently, and you choose to be courageous, then you're already making steps in the right direction, rather than just sitting and accepting that. I think that's probably the best I can give without actually giving you a full coaching session, which I'm very tempted to do right now.
Absolutely. I love how you said that. And one thing that I'm kind of presence to is kind of reminder of how powerful our words are, whether it's the words we speak out loud, directly, but how we frame our language to about ourselves or to ourselves. Like
Right.
I like to use the metaphor, the analogy of like a garden. Like whatever thoughts we water, whether they're based in love, whether they're based in fear, is what grows. And
Yeah.
and I kind of hear that's kind of how NLP works. Is we have to acknowledge and see and notice this garden that we've grown in the past was based on a lot of fear, was based on a lot of trauma and things that happened, and what we made those things mean, and kind of re-triggering negative emotions and negative thoughts, and kind of creating our frame of our world around that filter and that t-shirt. And I would hear you're saying is it's like when we actually choose to water a new plant, something that we are the source of, we are generating from a place of love, of courage, of purpose, that
Yeah.
there's a way out of you know the frame the t-shirt that we currently see and that we're wearing.
Yeah, absolutely. You're so right. And our thoughts become our things, right? So
Mm.
couldn't really get into much detail on this, but if you think negatively, then negative things are going to keep happening to you. But if you think positively, then you'll just flip the script immediately, and start changing it. And also, that other thing you said about voices, we have got two voices, right? We've got one voice that we say to ourselves, which is our internal voice, and the other voice that we use when we're talking to people that we love and we care for, like our best friend or our child or our mother, father, whoever. And, sometimes we really have to be self aware to think about which voice is it that we're listening to right now. Because sometimes, most of the time, we don't talk to ourselves like we do with our best friend or with the people that we love. We talk to ourselves in a really negative voice that is judgmental and critical, that puts us down. So, and that's normally the louder voice. And I think for me, that's what I work with a lot, where people have got one voice, maybe more than one voice, that kind of tells them that they're not enough, useless, don't belong, nobody likes me, all of that kind of stuff. But when you're talking to people you love, you're like, you're brilliant, you're amazing, you can do so many great things. Look at you jumping up and down on that chair, sofa, whatever. You're doing a great job.
Totally. We're such we are the ones that it's so easy to see someone else shine, or to see someone else, to listen for somebody else's power, but when it comes to our own, it's a whole different obstacle, or it can be. But I love how you're saying that. And but that's kind of one thing. It's what we're listening for. I feel like no matter what, like life happens. We all have good days, we all have bad days. We have days that we're we're downhill, the wind's at our back, and we're flying and we're feeling great. We have days that just one step feels like the biggest, hardest obstacle there could be. And I would say that where we can always find, whatever our circumstances are, whatever is happening in our space in this moment, we, if we're looking or listening for it, we could find something to be upset about.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we could also find something to be excited about, or something to be driven or passionate about. And I think that's a context, that's a reframing, like you're saying. It's, we get to choose what we're listening for.
Yes, absolutely. Every choice we make, the decisions we make, and those decisions really are the basis of what our thought process is, and the actions then that we take from that.
Absolutely. And I think the experience we have of ourselves in our life is a reflection of those thoughts, of where we're pouring our thoughts and our words, and our, what we create is what manifests and what we notice. I think
Yes.
I think a lot of people, I think everybody has a point in their life where they're like this, but some people are walking around their lives that are upset waiting to happen. They're just
Yes.
waiting and looking for something to be upset about. And
Oh,
I mean, I resonate with you, with you were saying is, being, feeling that struggle of being enough, of being liked, or being, just feeling uncomfortable, to just no peace of mind, really just trying to be enough, to almost prove myself to be enough, in a way that I was just a shell of trying to be a certain way, rather than actually being at peace with what is in this moment, knowing the power and the freedom that I actually have, when I'm, when those thoughts that were all based on my past and my not fitting in, and times I was bullied or picked on, and all the stories and the things I made those mean, were actually running the show.
yeah. It's crazy, isn't it?
It really is.
You can control things quite easily with your mind. You know, it it's very, very simple. It's the way that you feel is from your thoughts, right? So your thoughts create the feeling that you have, and therefore the way that you act. So those three things are really important, because if you're not feeling great, then from your thoughts are not great, you're not feeling great, and the action that you create isn't going to be great. Whereas if you do it the other way and you think of brilliant things, you're going to produce great things. But you have to own it. I think you really have to own those decisions and own the choices that you make, because you're always going to make mistakes. I'm always making mistakes and constantly, rebuilding or changing it or flipping the switch or whatever you want to call it. I mean, I literally have just failed constantly, and no failure was ever final, and it was never fatal. It was just that whole thing. If you choose to learn from them, then you can really make something happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that, because that's something that I've seen as well in myself and others, is failure, when we allow it, when we look, is our biggest teacher. It's, there's no such, we are never a failure. It's our, sometimes, like, I feel like when we fall in the victim failure trap, it's because we identify with ourselves as, I'm a failure, when really it was just the actions we took didn't perform what we were intending to perform. But I know we had a close, because it's way past your bedtime. And again, I appreciate you being with us in Edinburgh, late night past your bedtime. But I want to ask you one more question. We like to ask questions in this space and have inquiries. But I want to ask you, Pinky, what is your highest aim? What is, with what you're, the work you're up to and who you're serving, what is your highest aim?
I want to help 100,000 women in 5 years with what we're doing at Net Women, through corporations, to help them grow to be the best version of themselves and to live a life that they love.
That's beautiful. I love it. And I can hear and I can feel your passion, and just how committed you are to empowering women, and just to really be the gift that they are, and to share the gifts that they have. And it's, I just, again, I acknowledge you for what you're up to and who you're being in the world. I feel excited for all the people who you cross paths with, because I know your commitment to them, and what you're doing, and every breath you take and all the work that you're doing. So thank you for what you're doing in the world.
Thank you. It's all about making the world a better place, right?
Absolutely. We all, whether we can see it or not right now, we all get to play a part in that. We all can bring our unique flavor, our unique genius and gifts that makes it better, more beautiful world for our neighbors and ourselves.
Yes.
But thank you again, Pinky. I really appreciate you being with us, and I'd love to have you in the future come back and share with us some more. Really means a lot you sharing with us, and yeah, I'm excited for what's to come for Net Women.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Well, thank you again, Pinky. I'm going to take a real quick moment just to check in with you all. And I want to take a moment just to invite you to be a guest on the stage. This is an invitation. No matter who you are, where you live, what you do, what you believe, we want you to invite you to share your gift with us. Maybe I'm a little selfish and maybe I want to receive your gift, but I promise you I want to share it with everybody else as well. That's why we have this space and why we have this stage. You go to the link at the bottom of the screen, you can be a guest on the stage. And this is all part of our one-day mission, which is bringing you and me and communities together in joyous celebration, unifying humanity in our diversity to create a better world for us all. And our vision is humanity's rising in a connected world, each person's unique gifts and genius and contributions being valued and magnified through a higher level of collaboration, producing unprecedented new realms of possibility. Thank you so much again, Pinky. And thank you all for being with us and watching. We will see you all next week. I love you all. Be safe, be well. And as always, one day is today.